Good morning. Today is June 19th, 2022. My name is Kris Kines, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Our guest musician today is Linda Minke. Linda has been performing on the cello in the Jacksonville area since 1993, after moving here from Memphis, Tennessee. In addition to the cello, Linda dabbles with the Celtic harp, fiddle, and various drums. She loves to teach one-on-one music lessons and has created the annual Florida Fiddle Fest in Jacksonville Beach. Today, she is playing two brief movements for us titled Finale and Dance from Lyric Suite for solo cello, there we go. Written in 2014 by Ben Shorstein, a local composer who wrote the suite for his grandfather. Thank you, Linda. That was lovely. I believe we have opening words this morning by Reverend Amy.
In honor of Father's Day, I offer you this opening reading entitled Empowering the Fathers of This World, written by Lorraine Boderoff McNeil. Today is Father's Day, a day in which we honor and offer gratitude for our fathers, in whatever form or fashion they come into our lives. Biological fathers, stepfathers, adoptive and foster fathers, grandfathers, spiritual fathers, and all of the uncles, brothers, and friends who, whether they know it or not, have helped to fill the role of father in someone's life. We are shaped by their presence and their absence, by how they choose to act and when they abstain, what they say, and when they remain silent. Let us remember today and always the impact that these people have on us as individuals and as a community. And let us also remember that this relationship is not one-sided and that we as a community are called to support and empower the fathers of this world, no matter how they came into their roles and regardless of their relative successes or failures. Let us raise up their triumphs and let us have the grace to forgive them their all too human failures. Let us love our fathers and each other. Come, let us worship together.
Thank you, Vicki, for lighting our chalice. The reading for the chalice lighting is by Deanna Van Diver. We light this chalice, symbol of our faith alive in the world, naming our vision of collective liberation, and daring to remember each other into beloved community. Hello again, everyone. It's so good to see you here. Welcome to this day and to this opportunity to worship and to be as one in community, being together in this time of joy, comfort, and at times a challenge. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we've figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another. If you're here for the first time, we're so glad you found us. Please be sure to stop by the welcome table at the front. If you have any questions, board members wear gold name tags and are happy to answer any membership questions that you might have. To learn more about our church events and activities, see the calendar at bbuc.org. And for more information about our denomination, check out the website at uua.org. We are sad to announce that in our area, we are having another COVID surge that has made it necessary to reinstate some of our earlier safety precautions. Recent updates show both Duval and Clay counties have a CDC COVID-19 level of high. Therefore, according to our safety policy, this puts us in the red status. Until the situation improves, we will be implementing the following protocols. Masks will be worn inside for Sunday services, except for those of our worship team and guests who are speaking and performing on the chancel. No singing during the service except for our musicians. No food or drink inside. Food and drink can be served outside. We will continue to pass the plate and hold RE classes inside while wearing masks. Small groups who meet at other times must decide in advance to inform attendees before the meeting whether masks are required or only recommended. So far, the current surge seems mild compared to the Omicron variant experienced last winter. The board will continue to monitor and adjust the policy as needed. Hopefully, the surge will not last long. Refreshments will be served outside, and the Memorial Garden is open for folks who wish to linger in meditation or conversation. Our congregation's president David Christensen and Julie Smithers are here today to conduct a special ceremony to welcome new members to the congregation. Please look in your order of service insert for the words to recite as part of the ritual.
Good morning. I'm David Christensen, and I'm the president for another, 10, 11 days? Not that I'm really counting the days, but Today we welcome the following individuals as members of Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church. I'd like them to come forward when their name's called. Jesse Allen, Beth Curtis, Mike Ludwig, and Megan Tenor. Come on up to the stage. We at Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church welcome you this morning as new members of our community. You have come to worship, play, work, and grow among us. Ours is a free fellowship. We have no creeds, and you are free to bring your ideas and beliefs to this fellowship to share with others. I invite you to join with us in the religious search for meaning and purpose in life, informed by your individual beliefs and traditions of Unitarian Universalism.
You have already signed our membership book. This morning, I invite you to celebrate that commitment in worship. In this gathering, we bring ourselves before the holy in silence and in speech. We search together for meaning and truth in life, and we share the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another. Joining Buckman Bridge Unitarian Universalist Church means being part of this gathered community, speaking out on the future of our congregation, offering and receiving the gifts of the Spirit, supporting others, and being supported in return. If you will join us in this mission and work, please say, "I will." Will the members of the congregation please rise, if able, and respond with the words printed in your order of service? We greet you with open hands and hearts. As you join us, we once again renew our own commitment to this religious community. We are proud and happy to have you among us. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mike, Mike,
We have things.
we have some swag for you.
Hugs, hugs, hugs. Hugs, hugs, hugs. All right, the story this week is recorded and is titled, All Different Now, Juneteenth, the First Day of Freedom.
All different now. Juneteenth, the first day of freedom. Written by Angela Johnson, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. A literally cultured read aloud. A June morning breeze off the port blew the smell of honeysuckle past the fields, across the yard, and into our room to wake us. And nobody knew, as we ate a little, talked a little, and headed to the fields as the sun was rising, that soon it would be all different. Then we worked and worked and worked some more under the hot Texas sun, until word spread from the port to town, through the countryside, and into the fields, that a Union general had read from a balcony that we were all now and forever free, and things would be all different now. I watched as my Aunt Laura sang as she held her baby. Mr. Jake, who some say was 100, cried quietly. And a group of grown people bowed their heads and whispered things to each other I could not hear. My mama held my hand softly and looked beyond, as another breeze blew over and everything fell to a hush. But later, Papa, Mama, the aunts and uncles, and all of my cousins had an afternoon picnic by the water. My baby brother crawled around our blanket as we listened to the sounds of the waves. And as more people joined us, we ate as a free people, laughed as free people, and told stories as free people on into the night. What was before would be no more. As we walked back home, the cool of the night soothed our tired feet that padded quietly past the shadowy fields of cotton. And in the morning, the smell of honeysuckle will wake me again, beside my sisters and brother, to a time that will be, for all of us, all different now.
Linda Minke has another composition by Ben Shortstein titled Song of Our Ancestors. Thank you so much. Today's offertory reading is titled The River of Community by John Saxon. A religious community is like a river formed from many streams of our lives that meet and merge and flow to the sea. As members and friends of this religious community, we share our time, our energy, our creativity, imagination, and vision, our talents and skills and gifts, and the streams of our individual lives to create a river that is both deep and broad. A river that is made of many streams sustains life and refreshes the lands through which it flows. But the river of this community also depends on our shared financial support that makes real our shared values and vision. We will now receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. You are invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able. We are so accustomed to instant communication these days, we can hardly comprehend how slowly news traveled 160 years ago, or under what circumstances crucial news was transmitted. Historical fact: the Emancipation Proclamation was made law in 1863, but this news didn't impact the enslaved population in Texas until the summer of 1865, months after the Civil War had ended. In 2021, President Biden declared June 19th a federal holiday with the endorsement from Congress and Senate. We now celebrate National Independence Day. Reverend Amy's sermon today is titled Honoring Juneteenth.
Good morning, BBUC community. It is good to be with you today. I want to talk this morning about a term that we use a lot in Unitarian Universalist communities, the beloved community. The beloved community is a place where the inherent worth and dignity of every person is honored and affirmed. Beloved community is a place where the interdependent web of life is healed and strengthened. In a world where there is violence and oppression, there is suffering and cruelty, we raise our voices for compassion, equity, and justice. In beloved community, we bring our love to meet the injustice that we see around us. Building beloved community requires us to see the injustice in the world with open eyes so that we can help make the world a better place. And we need to understand not just the injustices in the world today, but also those that are a part of our country's history. We need to know our past to understand how we arrived in this moment and how we can move forward together into a more just and compassionate future. Today, as a part of building beloved community, I want to share with you some history about the holiday Juneteenth. Today is Juneteenth, the anniversary of the day when enslaved Americans in Galveston, Texas, learned that they were free from bondage. We remember a moment of progress, a time when the people of the United States moved closer to the ideals of freedom and equality that the country was founded on. But it is also a time to remember the pain of the legacy of slavery and the ways in which we have so much more work to do to bring about justice, freedom, and equality for all people. Understanding our history and healing from the wounds of that history is part of our spiritual work as Unitarian Universalists committed to building beloved community. Much of the information I am going to share with you comes from one of my favorite podcasts called Today Explained, hosted by Sean Ramaswaram. Specifically, it comes from the episode Happy Juneteenth from June 19th, 2018. where Sean interviews Brenda Stevenson, professor of history at UCLA. Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, during the Civil War. The proclamation changed the legal status of more than 3.5 million enslaved African Americans in the Confederate States to free. But it did not result in the actual liberation of enslaved people in Confederate states that had not been taken by the Union Army. Slavery continued in Galveston, Texas for 2.5 more years, until the arrival of Union General Gordon Granger on June 19th, 1865. General Granger read a proclamation that stated, "The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters of slaves, and the connection heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor," unquote. In 1776, the Declaration of Independence had held up the ideal of equality and the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet hundreds of thousands of Black Americans were enslaved and denied those rights. The very ideals the nation was founded on had not been extended to Black Americans. Juneteenth marked the day in which Black Americans gained their freedom, and America reached a milestone in evolving towards the virtues of liberty and equality. When Black Americans in Galveston heard the proclamation, they rejoiced. They celebrated with dancing in the streets, singing, prayer, games, and more. Some people left to go in search of family members that they had been separated from. People celebrated by getting married, something they had been forbidden to do under slavery. It truly was a jubilant moment. But although Black Americans were no longer enslaved, they continued to face violence, oppression, and disenfranchisement after Juneteenth. When federal troops left Southern states, Southern whites reversed gains that had been made and upheld white supremacy. Southern states enacted Jim Crow laws that legalized racial segregation. These laws marginalized African Americans by denying them the right to vote, hold jobs, get an education, or other opportunities. The Ku Klux Klan became a vehicle for white resistance to Reconstruction. Klan members terrorized Black and white Americans who were working for true equality. And yet, the jubilant spirit of African Americans that was present on Juneteenth was an eternal flame that could not be extinguished by the cruelty of white supremacy. African Americans continued to celebrate the real gains that they had made. They did have more control over their families. They were able to marry. They were able to obtain an education and in some cases own property. They had more control over their labor. They celebrated the real progress they had made. And they celebrated Juneteenth as a moment of inspiration moving forward. It served as a symbol of the way the United States was evolving towards the ideals of equality and liberty. African Americans in Texas migrated to other parts of the United States and spread Juneteenth traditions throughout the country. Celebrations evolved to include parades, barbecues, rodeos, drag racing, and more. Juneteenth gained even more national significance and recognition during the Civil Rights Movement. On June 19th, 1968, civil rights activists from across the country celebrated the holiday in Washington, D.C. These activists took the tradition to their home states and strengthened the revival of the holiday. It was first recognized as a state holiday by Texas in 1980. Thanks to the efforts of activists and organizers across the country, it was made a federal holiday in 2021. Juneteenth is a day to celebrate the way African Americans have struggled and fought to bring the United States closer to its core values of equality and liberty. On the podcast I mentioned, the host asked Brenda Stevenson, history professor at UCLA, if people who are not Black might feel hesitant to celebrate Juneteenth because they worry it would be an appropriation of a celebration of the Black community. And Brenda Stevenson replied, quote, I think that actually there is something for everyone in Juneteenth. I think that people celebrating the ideal of Juneteenth, which is liberation, which is equality, which is human respect and humanity in general, is not an appropriation. It is a part of the ideals of the nation. It is a part of humanity, of humankind, unquote. I encourage you to learn more about Juneteenth, to talk about it with your friends and family, and to check out the celebrations and events happening in the Jacksonville community. You can honor Juneteenth by supporting Black businesses. It is also a wonderful time to support with your time, talent, and treasure organizations working for racial justice in Florida and throughout the United States. Here is what Brenda Stevenson has to say about how she hopes people will honor Juneteenth. I would want some moments dedicated after you come home from the mall or get the sand out of your bathing suit for people to spend even just a tiny amount of time talking about what it means to be a free person in this world and why freedom is important to each and every person, and how we should not take it for granted, and we should not think that everyone has the same privileges that many of the people in this country have, and that we need to make certain that we promote in whichever small or large way we can do that. This is something I would ask the nation to do. This is something I would ask the world to do. Whether they choose to do so or not is part of their rights as a free person, unquote. Part of our work as Unitarian Universalists building the beloved community is to know our past and our country's past. In order to work for justice, we need to understand the history of injustice here in our own country. We need to engage in collective healing from the trauma that the country has experienced. It is ongoing work, and it is spiritual work. We can companion one another as we do the work together to build a better future. On this Juneteenth, let us honor the incredible milestone of the day when all Black Americans were freed in the United States. Let us recognize and bear witness to the joyful celebrations of Black Americans when they heard the news of freedom, and the way these celebrations have been passed down from generation to generation. Let us also acknowledge that there is still so much work ahead of us in the struggle for justice and freedom. May we all bring our gifts to the task of bringing this country even closer to its founding ideals of liberty and equality for all people. May it be so. Amen.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise.
we shall overcome. When we can truly celebrate the diversity of contributions and talents offered by all people, we shall overcome hatred and prejudice and oppression. When we can truly extend our hands to one another in loving acceptance, we shall overcome the past that haunts us now. Living in peace and freedom, we shall overcome the wrongs that have happened and the debts left unpaid. Let us join together in that commitment to overcome. Let us say amen together. Amen. Until we come together again, I bid you peace. Amen, namaste, and blessed be.